Hello everybody, it's Sarah and welcome to this out of my usual schedule video that is probably going to be full of chaotic energy because I just got done watching, I wanted to say filming, oh my god, luckily I didn't film it, watching the first 3 episodes of the Wheel of Time Amazon show. I watched them together with Hannah, who is my best friend slash roommate, and she has not read Wheel of Time. I have read Wheel of Time but don't remember anything, and we watched the first 3 episodes together, and so I decided to sit down right away and share my first impressions and thoughts with you. So this video is not gonna be very thought through, hence the big chaotic energy. Basically what this video is going to be is I will first of all tell you in a spoiler-free manner my first thoughts, first impressions to the show, and then because I asked Twitter if you wanted me, or if Twitter wanted me to do this video spoiler-free or with spoilers, and Twitter decided with spoilers. After that I just wrote down all my thoughts to the first 3 episodes, and yeah, I'm gonna tell them to you. But as I said, I only just got done with watching the show, so yeah, there's no rhyme or reason to my thoughts. I will literally just read my notes to you and hopefully still know what I meant with the notes. So first, let's talk about my spoiler-free first impressions. And for that, I feel like I want to mention just quickly where I'm coming from. And that is that I have read the books. I have read all 15 of the books, including the prequel. I was not the biggest fan of them. I can understand why some people love them, why for some people the characters are incredibly important. I had some major issues with the books. Because of that, I was even more excited for the TV show because, just, I gotta say it frankly, if I love a series and it gets an adaptation, then there's always this aspect of nervousness, like what if they change things that are really important to me, what if they mess it up and whatever. I literally had no emotional attachment whatsoever to anything in the books, so I could just be purely excited for the show and what they're gonna do with it, and I'm completely open to any and all changes as long as they make sense within the context of the show. So that out of the way, what are my first thoughts so far? My first thoughts, spoiler-free, are mostly that I really enjoyed the first 3 episodes. I thought the performances overall were really strong, even though we have a few characters that don't say a lot of things. I think that the way the relationships are set up between the characters is probably the strongest point so far for me in these first 3 episodes. Like, gotta be honest, of any and all relationships I was not a fan in the books, like be they platonic or romantic. However, in the show I felt like within just the first episode there was one relationship between 2 characters especially where just within the first half episode basically it felt to me like there was more development and more setup for this relationship done than in the entirety of the Wheel of Time book series. So, you know, I think in terms of character interactions, character relationships, that was really well done. I thought that they found a good balance with the exposition and with the world building so far. Like, talking to Hannah, who has not read the books, I think she's still pretty confused about where we're going, but she grasps it well enough that she wants to continue on, and she, like, her final thoughts were, this is a very bingeable show and I'm angry that I have to wait a week from now between each episode. But, you know, I thought that the exposition was well handled. We do get quite a bit of exposition, but it is done in a way that feels very, you know, natural to the show, that feels very organic and not like it's just tacked on. I mean, there's some aspects, for example, it starts with narration, but I think that's just a fantasy show and film thing by now that, you know, you gotta have some basic exposition at the very beginning. In terms of production value, I thought that it seemed really high. Like, I thought the sets looked amazing. I thought maybe some of the costumes didn't look worn enough and didn't look lived in enough, were a bit too vibrant, but to be honest, it was whatever. I mean, I hope they're gonna change it a little bit, and it did get better as the show went on, and it's also different depending on which items of clothing. Like, there were certain items of clothing that looked really clean and not worn enough, and then with other items of clothing I didn't have that issue at all. Then next, talking about the CGI, there were some issues I had with the CGI, especially when it came to the weaving of, so the using of the power, as well as some of the Trollocs, where I was like, okay, sometimes there's some issues there and sometimes it can look a little bit obvious, but then there's other aspects where I'm like, okay, obviously a lot of the budget that was allocated for the CGI was put into this aspect, and that's why maybe some of the other aspects can look not 100% perfect. But to be honest, it's still way better than the CGI in the first season of The Witcher, so I'm happy. Like, you really have to look very closely, and a lot of times it's especially in darker scenes when the CGI does not 100% perfectly hold up for me. But also it's the first season of a fantasy show that probably has a lot of CGI, so I just in general don't think they had the budget yet that, for example, later seasons of Game of Thrones got to make the dragons perfect. You know, you gotta consider that as well, that it's first of all not a movie but a TV show, so there's more runtime, and that it's a first season, so, you know, decisions had to be made in terms of budget. And then the only really negative thing I had was in terms of the addition of a character. I won't go into why I had troubles. Well, I won't go into it now in the spoiler-free section because, yeah, spoilers. And I didn't want to go into that, but yeah, there was a certain character that I'm just really, really not happy with the addition of that character, so whatever. But that was it basically for my spoiler-free first thoughts. So if you haven't watched the episodes yet, click away now. Also, I will probably talk about a few changes from show to books, which might go slightly into spoiler territory, not for later on in the series, but maybe for book 1. Just a little throw-in from me later on after filming the video. I know I said that I don't explicitly talk about any of the, you know, book things. Well, that was a lie. I do talk about what happens in the future books, as at least some implications that if you have just watched the show, or if you just want to watch the show, not read the books, means that maybe you shouldn't watch what follows after here. So yeah, that was just my little throw in right here. And as I said earlier, if you continue from now on at your own discretion, there come spoilers from the books as well as from the show so far. Let's go into it. So, starting out with things that have been discussed on Twitter a lot, and that is basically with the intro and, you know, setting up the dragon as possibly being a guy or a gal. And to be honest, I don't mind that at all, and I also don't want to go into that too much yet, because that's some thoughts that I have for when the series is done, or at least the first season is done, because the gender essentialism is one of the biggest issues I had in the books. So to be honest, depending on how they change it, I absolutely don't mind them changing the prophecy or whatever in the show. So yeah, that's my thought basically on the intro, because I know there were a lot of upset people on Twitter when that clip came out. I also love how the madness was already set up at the very beginning of the show, so gotta love that, very much appreciate that, because that just came right out with that. something that confused me was, I don't remember Moraine already knowing that Rand and the gang were Tavarine when, you know, she went to Two Rivers. I thought she only noticed that when she arrived there. But again, that's one of those things that I might remember wrong. Also, if I remember from the books, only the 3 boys were Tavarine. But I guess, you know, I guess they just changed that together with the dragon being possibly both a woman or a guy. So, yeah. Loved the entirety. By the way, I'm literally just going through my notes one after the other. I love the entirety of the women's ceremony. Also, not to be that person. Truly not to be that person. But when I saw the shot of the women's ceremony and when Egwene was thrown into the river, I was like, the color of this river looks awfully familiar, and this river in general looks awfully familiar, but then like canyon style rivers often look similar a little bit, so I don't know, like I don't know where exactly they shot, whatever. And then you had the shot of like Egwene constantly being underwater and then finally floating, and you had this shot going up and out and going along the river, and I once again was like, I am having a deja vu here. I don't know why. It's weird. Anyway, once I was done watching the show, I went on Google and went to look where they filmed. And yeah, I already was where they filmed that, and I don't know if I remember including it. Here is a shot of me jumping, not where Egwene was pushed into the river, but where that final shot was, you know, kind of panning up. And yeah, the picture is in the other direction, but yeah, anyway. Do I now count as being initiated into the women's ceremony? Also, if Madeline Madden, is that? I think that was the name of the actress of Egwene, truly filmed there, and she truly filmed, you know, jumping into this part, and they didn't just set up a random pool for that, then mad kudos, because this river is the coldest river I have ever been in. It's about like 10-11 degrees Celsius. And it's fucking cold. Like, I was a child, I would jump into any water, no matter how cold. But this one, I instantly jumped out again. And it was like high summer and hot. Then we get to the big thing that I already mentioned. I'm not gonna say it one after the other now. I'm just, you know, I'm just gonna mention it all at once. As I said, big chaotic energy in this video. Don't expect coherent thoughts from me. But, so Perrin is married now, which I don't have an issue necessarily with, and I understand why they did what they did. However, first of all, Layla is sexy as fuck. Like, I'm sorry, you cannot introduce to me a muscular, bare-armed, pierced woman and not expect me to instantly simp for her. That's just unrealistic, let's be honest. However, the thing is, as someone who read the books, I saw her and I went like, actually we don't see her right away, it's just mentioned that Perrin is married, but I saw her and I instantly went, she gonna die. She gonna die in this episode. Because, let's be honest, she doesn't exist in the books. So, for later books, for the setups of later books, she's gonna have to die. So, basically they set up her character to be fridged within the first episode to set up Perrin's character. And that was the only reason she was there. And I understand why they made that decision, because in the first book, or in the first books, or just generally, Perrin is a very introspective, silent character. Most of his character development, or his character in general, you don't really get from the outside, but you get from his POV chapters. And so he's not someone who talks a lot, he's not someone who's, you know, got a lot of presence always. And when you have a TV show, you obviously do not have this aspect of the inner monologue, because you just don't. You only see the characters from the outside. So I think what they did to make Perrin a more interesting character is they set up his wife, they set up him killing his wife, and that then makes the viewer feel sorry for Perrin, and Perrin doesn't have to do as much on his own as a character setting up. You don't have to have too much dialogue for his character and so on, for him to already be sympathetic to viewers. I still think it's lazy writing though. I think there could have been plenty of ways to still make his character interesting, even though he does not have too much to say in the first few episodes. You don't have to have him kill his wife. It's just not necessary. It's not necessary to use one of the oldest and most sexist tropes of the dead wife. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I get why they did it. I still hate the change though, and I don't think anything in the future is gonna make me hate the change any less. From that to something positive though, because I talked already in the spoiler-free section how I think a lot of the relationships are set up amazingly, and I think Rand and Egwene are one of the prime examples for that. First of all, the two actors, in my opinion, have a lot of chemistry, like not in terms of romantic chemistry, but just in terms of how they work with each other. I just thought that even just within the first episode and within, you know, the change of, okay, you're setting up Rand and Egwene as a currently romantic couple, you bring in this conflict between them, which by the way, from the very beginning, I did feel, even though I didn't see or we didn't get to know that much of their history beforehand. I mean, we know that they've known each other since childhood, that Rand has been simping for Egwene since childhood, but we don't get that much more. But even without that, from the first scene they had together, I already felt the anxiety in their relationship, the way Rand was very unsure in the relationship, the way they still care so much for each other. And then also with the conflict of Egwene being asked by Nynaeve if she wants to be her apprentice, basically. And then also in later episodes, I mean, again, just this first episode, there was so much there already from the very first time we see them not interact with each other when Rand is sitting at the table and Egwene is coming in the door, to the very end of the first episode when Rand is coming to the village, seeing, you know, the carnage and the relief Egwene obviously feels just seeing him. But then also in the second episode, because obviously in the third episode, you know, the two don't have any scenes together anymore. But also in the second episode, just, you know, the conflict between the two of them was very realistic in my opinion, the way their miscommunication worked. I really loved that. And I really loved this little moment they had in Shadar Logoth, when they were standing in this house and they didn't really say anything. You just had this scene of Rand grabbing Egwene's hand or holding Egwene's hand, and the two of them looking at each other, and I thought there was so much brought across in those looks, and I'm just like, oh my god, how did truly one half of an episode already set up this relationship and tell me more about their relationship and the development in this relationship than 14, not counting the prequel, 14 whole books. Like, I am sorry, but I just gotta say how it is, or how I see it. So yeah, I just definitely love the way their relationship is set up. And I also thought that even within the third episode, where they don't have any scenes together, you still get development in their relationship, because you have the scene of Matt and Rand, where Rand is very much simping for Egwene and is like, no, I trust her and I'm gonna go to the White Tower because that's where she's probably heading. And then you have the thing with Perrin and Egwene where Perrin tells her, like, if you think Rand is not gonna go where he thinks you're going, then I'm sorry, but you're stupid. So yeah, that, absolutely love that. Next, let's talk about the scene that was the first full clip I think that we got from the show. That's when Lan goes into the tavern and then Moraine comes in after him, because I just think this scene is, I mean, I get why it's shot the way it's shot and it's for dramatic effect, but thinking about it, I just find it so funny because it's basically Lan coming into the tavern out of the rain, Nynaeve asking him after a little while who he is, him dramatically pulling back his hood and saying, I'm Lan Mandragoran, and then taking another moment to say, this is Moraine. And Moraine, the entire time, has been standing outside in the rain. Like a full minute probably between the time that Lan came into the tavern and that introduces her. And yeah, she's a dramatic bitch. Both of them are. It just really makes me laugh. I swear every time Rand and Egwene shared the screen together, I have a note here that I love how their relationship was set up, so I'm not gonna repeat that the 50 times that's in my notes. My next note is just butt, because we got some very nice water butt, which, you know, I do appreciate that. I very much appreciate that we get to see man butt before we get to see woman butt. Because, yeah, I just remembered something that I hope they're not gonna adapt for the show, because, yeah. Anyway, if they adapt it, we're gonna see some more woman butt, like a lot more woman butt in the future in this show. But yeah, also absolutely love the platonic bathing, although, like, and I don't know if that's just me or, you know, the common pop cultural collective brain recognizable scenes or whatever, but you know, it just felt a little bit like, I wouldn't say copying The Witcher, but you know, cashing in a little bit of this iconic image of a fantasy show and people sitting in a bathtub, a wooden bathtub. But anyway, I definitely just love that you have Aes Sedai and Warder just chilling in a hot tub together. Once again, I love Rand and Egwene. Then we had the claw thingy, the, I don't know what it's called anymore, set up. So that I thought was very smart. I think that was the first time that we saw that symbol. I don't know if the symbol has been any more brought up, let's say it like that, within the context of the show. I don't remember. So yeah, but thought it was very interesting. We finally got the title drop. I do love that, at least in the first episode, they set up Matt as a very sympathetic character, because you already do have his gambling thing, but then you also have his family a lot with his mother and father, and then especially his two younger sisters, and you see how much of a cute older brother he is, and I just, my heart went out for him, even though I don't like him as a character at all. You know, once again, the show managing to rope me into the characters way more than the books ever did. Also, on this note, I'm just gonna add in the thing, because I asked Hannah to tell me if she wanted me to mention anything of her first thoughts of the show. And her thoughts were basically just, I love Matt, I know he's gonna disappoint me, so yeah, that was that. Then we had Beltane, I think it's Beltane, and the Trollocs came, and So yeah, here basically I had the thoughts the Trollocs are sometimes really cool and some could be CGI'd better. I think especially in the fight in Rand's and Tam's hut, I had a lot of instances where it was like, I don't know, this Trolloc could be done a little bit better. However, I think the fades are so completely flawless that I have the feeling that a lot of the CGI was just put towards the fades, and you know, a lot of times the Trollocs are mostly within darker scenes anyway, so it's whatever basically. But so Hannah and me at points in between had it very hard taking the Trollocs seriously, because Hannah mentioned that they're basically campus, that they are basically, you know, Perchten, which if you don't know about this little thing that happens in Austria and I believe in some parts of Germany and maybe the Czech Republic as well, you have Nikolaus, which is the 6th of December, and you have Campus, which is the 5th of December, and you have Perchtenläufe. And Campus basically is, Nikolaus is our, well, he's Saint Nicholas. He's our version of the Santa Claus a little bit, because Santa Claus doesn't come on the 24th for us. It's the Christkind, it's a Christ child. Anyway, on the 5th you have a little thing called Campus, which is the what's it called? Not the opposite, the complement to Nikolaus. Nikolaus is the one who brings stuff for the children who were nice, and Campus is the one who brings stuff for the children that were naughty. And on the 5th of December, in a lot of Austrian villages, you have this tradition of the Perchtenlauf, which is Perchten Run. And basically the young men of the village dress up in costumes, made mostly of wooden masks as well as goat's furs, and they get drunk and they run through the village like, you know, like they've gone crazy basically, and if you're not careful you're getting hit. Like there's some Perchtenläufe that are very ordered and very organized, and then there's others where it's like everything goes, and if you're out on that night, yeah, good luck to you. My mom used to, when she was younger, on that day she and her schoolmates used to go out, and Perchten also have this lovely thing which is like a Rute, I don't know, it's like this thing made up of sticks, and they have chains, huge chains, and they hit you. They literally hit you. And so my mom and her friends would go out on a day, and the next day everyone would meet up and compare bruises, and whoever had the worst bruises won. And so yeah, also just gonna put up a image here. Maybe I have already circled through images at this point. Anyway, this is what it looks like, and so yeah, no one can convince me otherwise that Winter's Night isn't just a freaking brutal Perchtenlauf, which they can be, to be honest, in real life as well, even though they're supposed to be fun. Moving on, every time Nynaeve and the Queen fight against Trollocs, it's so fucking sexy. Also, I think the women's circle just killing the Trolloc is probably my favorite scene so far in the 3 episodes, because that scene was really, really, really good. Then Egwene using the building to hit all the Trollocs. What if someone was still in that building? Ma'am, you could have hurt someone very badly. What would have that brought? Also, I thought Tom was still unconscious in the books when the group, the Emmons Fielders, left. Also, I get that we're gonna have to move along, but everyone was really easy to convince, which I guess with the Trollocs coming down the mountain might be a bit more easy to convince. But yeah, I don't know, I feel like there should have been a goodbye scene or something, although there might have been and they just cut it out, because that's something, and I'm just gonna mention that now, like Rand's or Tam's Heron Mark sword, I thought there should have been some scene of Tam giving that sword to Rand, because the way it was, he just suddenly had it, which, you know, you only consciously notice that he has it in the 3rd episode, unless you know what to look out for. But, you know, you don't know the importance of that sword and what that sword actually is and what that means for who Tam possibly is or was and why he is such a mysterious person, which you only really got that 1 second where he pulled it out and where you're like, oh, this seems to be something important. And it just felt like there should have been a second complementary scene kind of explaining what it is and the importance of this sword, where either Lan remarks on Rand having the sword or Tam gives it to him or something. And I think maybe there was a scene like that and they just cut it out because, you know, they had to cut out some things. But I don't know, it just felt like there was something missing there with that sword. So that was it for episode 1. This is getting way too long. Moving on to episode 2, White Cloaks. Very pristine, very pretty. Also, you know someone is supposed to be unlikable or evil when they eat disgustingly. It's just film language, I guess. I just wrote, oh shit, this is terrifying. Oh, I remember. That was when they were standing at the bridge with the ferryman and the fade was terrifying as fuck. I just wrote Lange Maxi, which, yes he is. I have no clue anymore what that was referring to. Love that for me. Moraine killing the ferryman. Okay, she didn't kill him, he killed himself, but you know, it was, I don't know, so far for me personally, until that point in the show, Moraine makes it kind of hard for me to like her, so gotta be honest about that. Then there was the scene where it looked like Moraine had like light bluish nail polish on, which looked really weird for me. I don't know if that was just lighting or not though. The bat was disgusting as fuck. By the way, I'm just trying to get faster now because I really did already say most of the important things, most of my important thoughts, I feel like. So I'm just continuing on. That point in my notes, by the way, after the bat was the first time I remarked on Rand not having the heron mark blade, because it, you know, it wasn't very obvious that he had it. So I just wrote down, didn't Rand get the heron mark blade? Then we're at the scene where they met the White Cloaks, and I was like, I mean, seriously, what is hiding the ring gonna do? Because, I don't know, I feel like in this world, Aes Sedai are the only ones color coding and color coordinating their clothing like that. Because, I don't know, I mean, maybe later on we're gonna see some characters who are, you know, more noble characters or higher class characters, higher status characters, and they're gonna color code as well, but it kind of feels like an Aes Sedai thing to me, so, you know, I don't know how much that's gonna help for hiding from the White Cloaks. We got our first hints of Wolf Boy Perrin. Love that for us. I don't know, although it seemed like his wound was gone after that scene, like after the scene where the wolf licked his leg. So yeah, I don't know, I would have loved if we had seen it maybe magically close or something, or magically be okay suddenly, but it seemed to have given him a lot of problems before that, and then suddenly no problems whatsoever anymore. So yeah, I did really love the scene between Matt and Perrin in Shada Logoth. I do think that Matt and Perrin is one of the few relationships in the books, platonic relationships in the books, that I did really feel and that I did really like. So I enjoyed seeing that translated to screen already. Then yeah, I already talked about me thinking that the only reason they gave him a wife is because he would have been pretty boring character-wise for new watchers otherwise. So I think they just needed to give him that backstory or whatever. There were some scenes in Shadow Logoth where it was like, okay, I could be a bit lighter. I'm having some trouble seeing things, but you know, it's not that bad. Then Perrin and Egwene full on jumped from that the wall. Also, I just found it incredibly courageous. Maybe courageous, bold. Bold is the right word. Of Rand to just throw his bow over that door and then jump over the door without really knowing if he would be able to open the door from the other side. Like, yeah. Also, we got Nynaeve back, so that's nice. Moving on to episode 3. I mean, do I have to say anything about Nynaeve and the Trolloc in the pool? That sounded wrong. Nynaeve fighting the Trolloc in the pool. Because, yeah. Also, we get our first Lan Nynaeve scenes. I mean, I gotta be honest, I'm not quite seeing the chemistry yet that a lot of other people see between the actors. Like, I see it in their interviews together and stuff. But, you know, in the shows so far, not that much. Like, I think Rand and Egwene have more chemistry than Lan and Nynaeve. But, you know, with Rand and Egwene, we also way more already focused on their relationship, and with Lan and Nynaeve, we're not really setting up the relationship yet. So there's that. In episode 3, I think, is where Perrin really shines. Hannah also, in the first 2 episodes, she didn't really care for Perrin, and then in the 3rd episode, she got really soft for him, and Perrin is just so soft in the 3rd episode in general. Like, as I mentioned earlier, him telling Egwene that, you know, she doesn't have to worry about Rand, and then also when they run away from the wolves and she falls, and him saying, instead of, you know, something like get up, he says, I think I got you, or something. Basically, you know, he said, I think I got you, instead of get up. And I just thought that it was such a Perrin thing to say, and I think that really shows his character and how caring he is, and I really love that. I love that we get more Lan and Nynaeve. I hope we're gonna get, you know, more explicit hints soonish, because at the end of the first book, the relationship is already quite, yeah, you know. What's it called? I forgot what it's called. You know what I mean. The relationship is quite explicit already. Also, Lan caring about Moraine so much. I love seeing that. I love that they didn't just go with 100% stoic all the time. But, you know, they also make him a caring character. We get to see our first Aiel as well. And then later on, we see Tom mentioning the hair. And it's like, I see what you're doing there with your setup. I wonder who of our main characters has exactly that hair color. It's very hard to see that. That was also the moment when I did see that Rand had the hair and blade. Then they full on knew what they were doing with Tom's introduction. I think no other character got an introduction like that. He just got the sexy penning up type of introduction where you just see parts of his body first and then you see the whole. Although I really did not like that song. I thought it just sounded like, I don't know, like really modern. I mean, it sounded like 80s style a little bit, but at the same time really modern, not really medieval to me. And yeah, I did not like the song whatsoever. Love Dana, really sad that she was a dark friend, especially because she just knew how to put Matt in his place. Then I do love that they mentioned queerness in the show, because yes, also explicitly, gotta love that. I really hope that they'll maybe make some of the characters queer. Or maybe bisexual, I don't know. It just, you know, I hope we'll see more of that in the show and more explicitly, not just talking about what one of the character is not. But I really love that the way they talked about it was really in a way where it's like, okay, in this world, queerness is normal. So yeah, appreciated that for now. But then later on in that scene, when she showed that she was a dark friend, I just love how Rand was just, you know, banging on the door and Dana was just standing there with the sword and just like, what is that stupid boy doing? Like, you can't run away, which obviously he was able to, which, you know, first hints that Rand can use the one power or whatever, but it's whatever. And then there's two last things I want to say about the third episode that I'm missing. First of all, where's Bela? I mean, we got Bela name dropped, but then only Moraine's and Lan's horses made it out of Shadar Logoth, I think. At least we didn't see the other horses making it out. I don't remember if that was the case though as well in the books, if Bela made it out on her own. Who knows? I don't. And then the second thing is Tom's coat. Like, Tom's patchwork gleaming coat is described so colorfully, and yet he just has a boring ass coat in the show. So yeah, that was my very long first impressions, first thoughts. But yeah, I'm gonna try to cut it down a little bit maybe. So yeah, that was it for this video. If you have made it this far, I suppose you have watched the show so far, as well as read the books. So leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All the links to my social media, as well as all the links to my book club of Queens, Witches and Valkyries, are in the description box down below as well. So go and check those out. And with all of that said, I hope I'll see you soon. Bye!